the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'll have roll call here. Supervisor Limata is excused and absent this evening. Trustee Truscott.
Here.
Trustee Pompo.
Here.
Trustee Durant.
Here.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Rattari is here, and staff present is Manager Gerard, Township Attorney Roger Zappa, and I think Superintendent Kirk Page is here. Committee members here are John Marks from the ZBA, Dave Wiegand from Planning, Recreation and Roads, Mike Springer's back there from Roads, Recreation, and William Truscott is here from the ZBA and the Roads. He's a alternate for ZBA. So that's it. At this time, we have to pick a chair of the meeting before we go any further.
I appoint Lynn Durant as chair for the meeting this evening. Support.
All right, we have a motion and a second to appoint Trustee Durant as the chair of the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Trustee Durant is now the chair of the meeting.
You're toast. No warning again. I like that. Okay. Roll call. Got the consent agenda. Thank you for your patience. All right. We need approval of the consent agenda, which typically consists of, let me get my microphone better here. Approval of the prior meeting minutes from August 18th, received committee and other reports consisting of the fire marshal's report of June, the fire department officers meeting draft minutes of August 10th, the draft meeting minutes of August 10th, also from the department meeting, Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority draft minutes from August 19th, and Iron Ore Heritage Recreation Authority draft minutes from July 22nd, and the minutes from August 26th of 2015. Correspondence now requiring board action, letter from Ely Township about the supervisor, remember if he was replaced or retired, but they have a new supervisor. And bills payable in the amount of $320,802.01. Financial statements from July of 2015 and the treasurer's report of July of 2015. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And supported?
Supported.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Approval of the regular agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Secretary? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes, thank you. Public comment. Anybody wishing to address the board can step forward to the podium. Please give us your name and address and keep it to about 3 minutes if you can, please.
Name is Michael Perry. I live at 2232 Norwood. I've got a problem with the county. They made a moat out of my front yard for no reason. My yard has a creek going through it, water runs into the creek. But the county engineer decided that my yard's a problem. So he dug a 2-foot trench on about 150 feet of it on Norwood Street. And he found a culvert on Erie Street, which I don't mind. I'd just like to have Norwood Street put back the way it was. it looks bad. I can't get a lawnmower in my front yard anymore because the creek cuts through my yard. And I used to pull my lawnmower over the Norwood Street side. You can't, there's a 2-foot trench. And it's a mess. His answer to me when I asked him why he's doing it is because he can. He can do anything he wants. He has no supervision. I talked to the county board, and they don't micromanage. They let him do whatever he wants. A couple members of the county board told me to talk to you guys because they said you have some pull with him. But they destroyed it. It's a mess. I got $400 grand tied up in my house. It looks like a third world country. So whatever you can do to help me, I would appreciate it. I guess you got some pictures in your email of what they did, what it was like before. It's pretty bad when a county can do anything they want with, nobody to answer to. They don't plow the streets. I've been trying to get the culverts fixed in front of my house for 2 years. I can't drive my cars from my Norwood Street garage to my Erie Street garage because they were up bottom on the culverts. His answer is we don't have the money. But he can send 6 people over for 2 days with 5 pieces of equipment to dig a hole in my yard. So whatever he can do, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Anybody else? Dave?
Just a couple comments about the upcoming agenda items 8A and B. I would hope that when you consider supervisor's resignation that you would consider it for September 30th, and that when you consider appointing supervisors to fill a spot that you would take your time and put that out there for the some applications from residents to see who's interested out there, to make sure that you got an opportunity to review the background and availability of individuals out there to see if there's a better candidate out there than appointing it from the board. I'm not saying whether there is or isn't. I'm just saying it's worth taking a look at. And I think if you considered the resignation effective on the 30th, you've got 45 days after that, so you end up with 75 days to fill that vacancy. And I would think it'd be a good idea to see the board take that much time to fill it, make sure they got the best person in the seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Davatilla, UP Engineers and Architects. Just here for item 8C, Local Roads update.
Thanks. Okay, board member comment? Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Clerk Rattari.
The only thing I have is be careful next week. The public schools start, and the calendar this year is kind of unusual because usually our first meeting September is after Labor Day, and unfortunately this year Labor Day is the latest it can be. So we end up having our first meeting before Labor Day, which doesn't happen very often. But the schools start now after Labor Day, so just be careful. There'll be a lot of buses and kids out there, and just be careful. And we'll make sure there's no accidents in that first week of school.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee LaRue?
Just an update on this morning. We had what we call the monthly chamber breakfast chat. Some of the items that were discussed were dark store, how it affects us. For the dark store, there's 2 different committees working on it. There's a Bright, B-R-I-T-E, store committee, and that's, if you see some stores in Marquette, you'll see a little sign that says Bright Store, and those are the people who agreed to that they wouldn't content their taxes, that they're in favor of leaving it like it is. And they're a very busy group, and they're working very hard trying to coordinate a lot of things. The second group is what they call themselves, they meet here, and if I can find the thing here, they meet monthly, and then they go into subcommittees. And the name of it is the Marquette Township Community, no, where is it now? They're trying to that tie into Marquette Township's center or something like that, but I forgot. I had it here and I don't see it right now. Well, anyways, they're meeting and they're planning a forum for November 5th at the Ramada Inn, just to inform the people about what's going on about dark stores, and they're going to try to tie in with Escanaba, Brighton Township, the Marquette County, city, and there's just not enough activities going on that people don't know about it. They discussed also about boycotts and marching and that. I think we all come up with the answer is our legislator is going to have to take care of that, you know. So that was interesting there. So, but just mark that date down, November 5th. And that's all I had.
That was here, Pete?
If I may interject, that is on, when the residents receive their utility bill, the calendar that's in the utility bill, the notice of that meeting is on the back of the calendar.
Good. Anybody else? Dan?
Concerning item 12 on our agenda, the closed session concerning the pending litigation, I have been in contact with our attorney, Mr. Zappa, and have decided that due to the possibility of a conflict of interest or perceived conflicts of interest, I would like to be excused from any discussion, deliberation, or decisions concerning the specific pending litigation.
Okay, I believe we need to have a vote on that, and I don't know that this is, maybe when we go into the closed session, would that be an appropriate time to do that?
If I may, this specific closed session is not in regards to that litigation. It's for another litigation that you probably won't have a problem with.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I bet Trustee Johnson.
I have two items. First one, in the paper on, I think it was on Sunday or Saturday, there was a nice article about our new Dairy Queen. I think it was well-written and brought out a lot of good points on it. But the one thing that I saw in there, it says it has opened in Marquette recently. It's opened in Marquette Township and that. And I see that too often, and a lot of times I'll email down there and try and get it corrected, but it don't work at times and that. So, but it was a good article. That was the only thing I could see I was in disagreement with and that. Now the other thing is, on a different note, on September 14th is when you have to pay your taxes and that. September 15th is a penalty. So this is the last warning I can get you from board status and that. So those are listing. If you haven't thought about it, you may want to think about it relatively quick, because it's a week from the coming Monday that you're going to have to visit our township and provide us with some cash and that, in one way or another. So your taxes are due by the 14th of September without a penalty. That's it.
Thanks, appreciate that reminder. Trustee Truscott, anything? Did I get everybody, I think? Okay. I have a planning commission report to give you very briefly. There was just one item on the agenda that we talked about last Wednesday night, and it was a public hearing. No one attended, so I guess that means everybody was in agreement. It was a zoning text amendment to Article 14, which restricts use of 40-acre parcels as far as home sites in the, let me make sure. Single-family attached and single-family detached for resource production. And that's typically for properties that are way, way out in the woods that don't have mail delivery, don't have water, don't have sewer, don't have access to utilities. And the original purpose of that zoning district anyway was to protect some of the forested property that we have in the township. It's not property we own, it's owned by somebody else, but just to make sure that we don't have 1 and 2 acre little parcels springing up in the middle of the woods. It's just a little bit more of a protection. And if anybody has any questions, I can answer that. But that's really all we talked about. That's all I have. So the next one is unfinished business, 8A, consider supervisor written resignation. So we've all received that in our packets. We have an original signed by the supervisor in our mailbox. Treasurer Johnson?
Yes, I'd like to address that, the letter from our supervisor, Dennis Limita, and I have a motion here. I move to accept Dennis Limita's resignation as supervisor of the Charter Township of Marquette effective September 30th, 2015, and to appoint Lynn Durant to the position of supervisor of the Charter Township of Marquette as of October 5th, 2015.
October 1st.
October 1st, yes.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second? Support. Support. Discussion, Ernie?
It's a two-part motion. The first one is, I really was not happened to see the resignation from Dennis, and that he's done an excellent job while he's been here and that, and so, and looking at the letter and looking at what he has done in that, and as we move forward in that, like I said, I did not enjoy it, seeing the letter, and not enjoy making the recommendation to accept the resignation of him and that. But he has family to think about, he has his future to think about, he has to move forward in his life and that, so he has to do what he has to do in that. So the second part is, I look at the continuity, trying to move forward with the supervisor's position, and as I did with Dennis's when I was on the board last time, when we actually went through all the paperwork for the different individuals. I did my due diligence at that point in time, and I made the recommendation. I was appointed chairman of the meeting at that point in time, and I did the due diligence, and I recommended that he be accepted. And I've done my due diligence as far as Lynn is concerned. I think she'll do an excellent job. She's got the background. She's been here for going on 8 years now, somewhere in that vicinity in that. She's been through a lot. She's seen a lot. I think with what we have going on now, with the litigations going forward, the budget, and managers and everything else, I think we need to keep moving forward. And if we wait to bring someone new in to try and bring them up to speed, I saw Dennis when he came in with really no background and trying to get himself knowledgeable to keep things moving in that. It was very difficult for the first 2 or 3 months in that because there was so much happening in that. I feel we need someone to move forward who has the background, has the knowledge, has been working with the board and the township. So that's why I made the motion. That's why my feeling on it.
Diana?
I wholeheartedly agree with Ernie. You know, I think you were the right person.
Tari?
Only issue I have is talk to the legal counsel. Is that legal, Roger? And we can do with what they're saying?
You can. There's a statute, MCL 168.370, that you must have a written resignation, which you've now received. The board must then have a motion to accept that resignation. That can be completely separate from a reappointment. As the public comment indicated, you then have, because this isn't an immediately effective resignation, you have 30 days. You can make an appointment within 30 days before to fill that vacancy. If you do not fill the vacancy, either within that 30 days or within the 45 days thereafter, then the county clerk will undertake a different procedure and come up with some nominees to the party chairs and so forth. So you've got some time there that you can wait and defer, but keeping in mind that now if you were to vote and approve this motion, then you'll have a trustee vacancy that you need to fill, and the same timing guidelines would apply. Whether you should or should not act is not a legal issue. But can you act? That's very much a legal issue, and the answer is under the statute that would be permissible action. You cannot, however, appoint your trustee tonight because you do not have a written resignation from anybody at this point other than your supervisor. So that would have to be a different time and a different meeting to handle that issue.
And then would that be another 30 days, Roger, from that receipt of resignation?
Yes, again, it depends upon when the effective date is. You cannot make an appointment, let's say, for example, that your supervisor gave notice that he would be done effective 60 days from the written notice. You could not, at a meeting 45 days in advance, make that appointment. It must be done within 30 days prior to the effective date. So again, it's going to be contingent upon when the timing of the vacancy is and so forth. So to say that it's another 30 days, well, it could be or it might not be. The more carved in stone number is the 45 days. You cannot have a vacancy more than 45 days from the effective date of the commencement of the vacancy without filling that, or then you have some problems. Also, I should add that the person being nominated to fill the position is not permitted to vote on this motion.
Anything else, Clerk Rattari?
That's all I have.
Trustee Pompo?
Well, I agree also with Ernie. The transition would be much easier with someone that has been with this board, has known work with this board, has seen all the things that are going on, has a vast knowledge of what's going on. To bring someone in new that has absolutely no idea, I think would be a disaster at this point in time.
Thank you. Trustee LaRue?
I would prefer that we went out, waited 2 more weeks, see if somebody else would be interested in, and also then you'll find out if you don't pick them, he'd be interested in board. But seems like every issue we have, we always say, why don't we go out to the outside, but I think we should do that for 2 more weeks, and then decide in 2 weeks. But that's the way I feel. I just think that by doing it like this, we looked out on Dennis, he did a good job, we did it the same way, we went out, we explored different people that came in, interviewed, and I just think that's the right thing to do at this time.
So what was your significance of the 2 weeks, just until the next meeting, you mean?
Right, put something out and see who would be interested in a supervisor's job or a trustee's job or something, and we have somebody, but I don't think we should rush through this thing, and nothing against you, but I'm just saying, for years, that's all I've ever heard is, oh, we gotta wait, we gotta go out to the outside, go to the outside. Now, why don't we just go to the outside for 2 more weeks? And then come back to it.
Thank you.
Might not change, but you find out who's interested.
I think I'm allowed to comment, so, thank you for the vote of confidence. I appreciate that. I did express my interest to the board a few weeks ago, saying that I would be willing, if requested, to step in and try to fill the void. Those are pretty big shoes to fill. Dennis has done a phenomenal job of weathering us through a rough time. 6 years ago, we had a lot of emotional issues, and we had political issues, and we had financial issues, and he just stepped right in and gave it his all, and he did through his whole tenure. But I do agree with what I've heard, and that's why I said, I don't necessarily know right now that I'd want to be a full-time supervisor going forward to run again, but I'm willing to help out right now, and I think that the township could use the continuity. I don't have any agenda other than communication. That's the only thing that I was interested in really working on when I put my name in for the ballot 7 years ago. I want to continue what we're doing, and I want to make sure that the stuff we have in place, that Dennis has kind of helped direct us, that stuff gets done. I have the same vision that I think most of the rest of the board, or all of the board. And I'm going to give it my all. I've made arrangements at my office if this were to come to pass, so that I have that covered, the support of my husband and my staff. So I guess I have to call the question. All in favor?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
With Roger. Does she have to ask to be excused to vote?
I'd say no.
There is, I don't believe it is absolutely mandatory, but it would be discretionary. She certainly, as I've already indicated, cannot vote. It's basically up to her. It is not mandatory that she be excused from the room.
She could call an she could call an abstention though, right? Yeah, abstain.
Yes, in fact, it must.
It's actually statutory. Statutory prohibition.
Questions or issues?
Do we get to interview you? That's why I'm saying we need 2 weeks to
That's
talk
why
about it.
yeah, that's why I sent
Yeah.
the email out saying, please contact me. A few board members did.
Yeah,
I was not allowed to campaign. I was not
Right.
allowed to, it had to be maybe one-on-one, but I couldn't really talk about it. And the email was worded that way in particular with Roger's recommendation, so. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
aye.
One abstention.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So this is effective October 1st,
Yes.
and I will definitely find out what I need to be brought up to speed on, and then I won't get surprised.
Oh,
Yes.
absent. Let me do a roll call on this one.
Or in one and one.
Yeah. So the motion was by Treasurer Johnson, so
Yes.
Trustee Trescott,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Pompo,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
No,
Okay, so that's 4 yeses and 1 no, 1 absent, and 1 abstention. So that motion carries.
Okay, so, thank you. I'm thinking then this 8B then doesn't apply in this case, but we will have to put on the next agenda filling my position effective October 1st. Clerk Rattari? Right.
What I would suggest is Trustee Durant submit a resignation letter to myself, to the clerk, and then we can move forward on that other position once the resignation, once we get that letter and accept it.
Then I also have the Planning Commission to address too. Where does that fit in? As the liaison? Right, I mean, I would have to, yeah. So where does that appointment come in? That would be after the 1st? As the supervisor, I can do that?
I would say point of order.
That's up to Roger. He's thinking, give him a second.
What's the question?
Oh, I'm the planning liaison also. So.
You cannot, as the supervisor, be the planning commission
Exactly.
liaison.
Right, I'm the ex
So you'll have
officio
to
of
submit a
any-
written resignation.
Separately.
Yes.
That's what I was asking. I'm sorry, I didn't know that you didn't know that.
Well, I wasn't following what the question was. I'm sorry, I was
That's all right.
taking notes here, so.
Okay.
But that should be dealt with as a separate issue.
I'm just trying to get the chronology of what.
And there should, of course, be no overlap in the dates.
Right, they'd be the same dates. The issue that I have is that the commission liaison appointment the way it's structured, the way I understand it, is that that position has to be continually filled. Actually, a committee, I believe it says any appointed committee member must remain in their position until a new person is appointed. So I don't know how that crossover, we don't have to
You
decide that
can't.
tonight. Right,
Yeah,
right.
And people die occasionally
Yeah.
while they're in office. So, I mean, there are ways of addressing that. I can't tell you without looking at some statutory citation on the exact wording of how that would work, but I can say that you cannot have any overlap in the liaison position with the planning commission and the supervisor position. They have to be separate, because that's a,
Yeah, that's why I brought it up. The library is also a liaison appointed position, so that'll have to be addressed also. It's a little bit different, but it was just an appointment.
That's not a statutory appointment, the library is, that's a
Right.
board appointment
No.
on that too,
Right.
so.
So, I mean, if I have to
However
still
the
do
board wants to
that,
handle that.
we'll have to.
yeah, I don't believe that there's any prohibition necessarily from the supervisor even serving
That's what I was
as
thinking.
the liaison for the library board.
Along with that, the minute she assumes the position of supervisor, there's an open position on the planning commission from the board standpoint at that point in time. So she can still attend them as an ex-official member, she can still speak, but there's no voting rights from her standpoint in that too. So as of October 1st, we do not have a representative from this board to the planning commission in that.
Manager Gerard.
I would suggest that you request a written opinion from Council Zappa predicated upon his knowing what all you're currently assigned to for your next board meeting.
Okay, we will do that. May I, Mr. Zappa?
You may.
Mr. Marks?
This is a question through the chair to the attorney.
John, why don't you go to the podium, please?
This is a question through the chair to the attorney, and I think it needs to be answered. If the successor who has been appointed was to handwrite a resignation from the position as trustee tonight and hand it to the clerk, the vacancy would exist. Isn't that not true?
It is true, it's not on the agenda, though, and you've already adopted your agenda as well,
There's,
so.
I had a resignation prepared just in case, just because that's like the way I am. I try to be prepared, and I didn't think it would be appropriate, so I ripped it up. So I think we're fine waiting till next month. All I was looking for was the chronology of what I had to do, what I couldn't do, and make sure that I have my ducks in a row to keep the township moving. Secretary?
I would just suggest that
I think I
you
do
have
too,
it
actually.
prepared for next meeting. It'll be on the agenda, and you can act on it then.
Okay, thank you. Treading in new waters here, folks. I will get a hold of council to make sure this needs to be addressed too. Okay, so B has gone away. C is local roads rehab project update. And I'll bet you that Mark would just love to come up and give us an update.
Randy.
If I may, Mark, just before you start, while Mr. Perry is still here, I just wanted to make a comment based on his public comment. Part of our road rehabilitation project may solve part of his problem when we redo the roads in his area. So I guess, we'll be talking on the 12th When we start our budget process, we'll be talking about stormwater management, which we've talked about previously, in all the previous budgets recently in terms of where we're going to go in stormwater management. That might be a good time to dovetail those two discussions and see if we might be able to come up with a solution. Well, I just wanted to mention that while he was still here in the audience.
That's right, I remember reading that in the packet. Thanks for bringing that up. And it was part of the correspondence.
Yeah,
for the
stormwater has been an issue throughout Trowbridge for a long time, and, you know, Superintendent Page has been trying to work on an ordinance to control stormwater. We don't have storm sewers, but with the road work that we're doing as part of our road facilities plan, this year, next year, and 2013, we may be able to resolve some of those issues.
Thank you, Manager Gerard. I was thinking we were going to address that on the agenda. I'm sorry. Where did he go? There he is.
Already, Payne and Dolan is, obviously, you saw the paving on Oak Hill, and that was the only road that's been paved so far. They're starting to crush and shape and do culverts tomorrow. That's going to take them all of September. October is going to be the paving, and end of October into November, they're planning on doing guardrail and cleanup and restoration. That's where we sit.
Yeah, where we are in the process right now is all of the crack sealing has been completed, the chip seal work has been completed, and what Mark is referring to is we started the crush and shape 2 weeks ago.
That was the milling and paint, yeah.
Yep, 2 weeks ago in Oak Hill subdivision. Those roads have been done, and now next we'll be moving to the Northwoods Road, I believe, and Eagles Nest Road to deal with those repairs.
At Northwoods, Eagles Nest, and then it'll be kind of a couple streets at a time. What we've been doing is send out letters to any residents on those streets that are going to be affected. Just let them know the schedule that's going to take place on their road. That's something we're going to do on a week-to-week basis.
Right, and there has been notice out to the residents on Eagles Nest, because the way this is being done, there are a couple of culverts that have to be done, so the road will be physically closed for half of the road. They'll have to divert, similar to what happened on Bishop Woods Road with the county's project on 492. Same thing, they had to close off Wyland Drive, so the one exit was being used while the culvert was being replaced. We'll be doing the same thing. Right now, our targeted completion for this year is October 31st. If the weather maintains, we're going to go beyond that as far as we can. Usually, right around the middle of November, the batch plant closes up, so we're going to try and get as much done as we can this year, and then start up again first thing in the spring with the remainder of the roads that do not require subsurface work, water and sewer.
We had an email from Manager Gerard this week about some of the road issues and things that we'd already talked about with, not even the striping wasn't involved, but do we know that I'd asked Manager Gerard if we could get a balance of our contingency? I think this is the second tap into it that we've done since the project started.
Yeah, what we're going to be doing, and Mark and I talked earlier today, we received notice today from the Road Commission that they have received the proceeds from the bond sale, and we're going to be working to get to them the financial package, basically, and the billings that we've done so far, and then you'll be getting a report on that.
Okay. Would that be like the next meeting for the next?
Before the next meeting. It'll be prior to the next meeting, so you'll have that information.
Any questions for Mark?
Mark, what about the striping? We talked about it a little bit in the road committee tonight, about the striping, what we have to do to finalize that thing.
Yeah, I had said that in the plans, it was any road that was striped before, after it gets paved, it's gonna be striped again. But, roads that didn't have any pavement markings on them, they're not going to have pavement markings on them, so. It was, if you guys want them striped, we could put out a change order request to increase the striping on a lot of the streets. I guess that
Would you explain the
action.
striping, Mark? When you're talking about striping, would you explain that, what it is?
I guess, for each road, if you guys wanted double yellow down the middle, white paint along the edge. We can put out, whatever, whether the board decides it, this is what we want the typical street to look like. Whether we have the white lines or not, give that to the pavement marking sub and they can give us some prices. We have options as far as, this is what it's gonna cost to put yellow on your center line. This is what it's gonna cost to have yellow on your center line and 2 white lines. From there, have the board act on it.
Are you going to submit a cost to Manager Gerard?
Well,
Manager
I was
Jordan.
going to say, we've been having some internal discussion with regard to this. Most of the roads that we're redoing are residential streets that typically don't have striping on them. Where we're talking about doing striping are on the roads that we're going to be designating as potential pedestrian ways. And there would be striping basically on, we're talking about striping on one side of the road to designate the pedestrian area to keep traffic off of that. But we're, Planner McCarthy and I are looking at that in terms of what we might want to bring back to the board as a recommendation. The last one that came back to the board, which the board basically approved by consensus, was taking care of some of the potholes that were not part of the chip seal. So that's being done. That's a $9,000 package basically to get those done, and so we'll be proceeding with that. We're looking at, you'll see some funding in the 2016 budget. I have some money in the 2016 budget to provide a paved shoulder on Grove Street for a pedestrian access on Grove for our portion of it, linking up with the city and with 492. So we're trying to address it in several different ways.
So are you saying that your report next meeting will include which roads would have whatever type of striping?
We're going to have suggestions for the board to consider in terms of which roads and what type of striping would be on it. And it will not be all the roads. It probably will not be most of the roads in Trowbridge that are general residential roads because they're narrow to begin with. And there is no shoulder, most of those, and there won't be a shoulder. But on some of the other streets that are a little bit wider that we want to identify as potential pedestrian corridors, we're looking at putting striping on one side of the road.
Any other questions? Dan?
Just one quick one, and it's probably, nitpicking into this thing, but somebody did ask me on the Cox redo, where they redid Cox, and I'm sure this probably relates to the water, but there's 3 holes right in the corner of Cox and Cherry where the water shutoffs that need to be raised up, and it's like a pothole, but unfortunately, we're also caving in the asphalt around that, so.
Kurt, did you want to say anything about that, or is that something else that we're going to be dealing with? They're the water boxes in the roadway. Do we have collars for those, or? No, the road project, our road facilities project.
When they redid Cox, they raised it up, but the shutoffs are, so there's holes there now.
yeah, those 3 have to be
I
raised.
just-
What happened on that one is they ran out of the risers to raise them.
Oh,
So
okay,
they paved it with the intention of coming back there and raising those.
okay. That's just, somebody just asked about that.
And as we talked earlier on this, I think there's 6 there holes that should be adjusted, or if they can. The one is about 5.5 inches deep on the main one, so they're gonna have to put that sleeve in and raise it up, so. Yeah. And also, I just want to mention that at the meeting there, I seen the letter that was sent out to the people in Eagles Nest, and I guess you've been doing that where they're working, explaining what's going to happen and what they're doing and stuff like that. So that's very nice. It's a nice touch. Thank you.
How far in advance do you send those letters out?
I try to give people a 3-day minimum. As soon as we find out when the work's gonna happen, whether it's a week out, even if it was a couple weeks out, we'll let people know as soon as that happens.
Great. Any more questions for Mark? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. 8D is consider board member committee liaison assignments. This was a carryover from last meeting, I believe. Trustee LaRue asked Supervisor Limata to put on the agenda. Take it away, Pete.
I would like to be considered as liaison to the fire department, if Danny would have switched with me, just to make it a little bit easier and try to get rid of some of the friction in that. So if you'd want to trade, I'd be willing to serve on a fire department.
Okay. I don't have the authority to do that, so I suppose that would either fall to Dennis at the next meeting or me in October when we're doing other appointments. But I'll make a note of that. Thank you. New business A, consider request of Craftsman Development LLC for conversion to 4% PILT. Consider proposed pilot for Whetstone LTD DIV housing. We've gotten a little bit of information on this. We've gotten a printout of an explanation of what a payment in lieu of taxes is. We have information from the township assessor and deputy treasurer giving us the financial breakdown on the impact that the 4% would provide or not provide. I have some questions, and I imagine the rest of the board does. Manager Gerard, do we, because this came before us, we're gonna have to address it, right? We have to, I guess where I'm coming from is, I don't know how this fits in with the tax tribunal.
Well, this is,
Way of doing things.
yeah, this is a little bit different.
Separate?
Yeah, this is a little different than the tax tribunal. Basically, what is being requested by Craftsman Development, they are seeking to acquire the property and to redevelop the property. And I see that George is here in the audience and had brought in some information. It appears to be communications from residents supporting the project. Basically, what's being sought is to be taken off of the ad valorem tax in exchange for a flat 4% contribution to the township. At their last meeting, you had asked for some information from the assessor deputy treasurer regarding what the cost impact with that would be. She has provided that. It's not significant, but it's pretty much forever. The other impact to it is that as you do millage requests and as you do other types of funding processes, that would not increase.
Well, it would from the perspective of if the property value increases.
No, it's
4% of what it is
of
now,
their
and then
income.
it stays that way.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Well, the tribunal is a little bit different because it's been running about 2/3 or 3/4, so.
The tribunal has been running as high as 60% on some of the cases, and the issue, the groups that Trustee LaRue mentioned earlier are trying to create a grassroots effort, basically by two different approaches. One, the Bright stores, is by going to existing businesses that have not gone to the tax tribunal and obtaining from them a commitment that they would not challenge their taxes. Those are generally smaller businesses, local businesses. The other group is a citizens group, and it's more of a grassroots group that is attempting to apply political pressure to Lansing, to our representatives in Lansing, to come up with a real fix. We keep hearing about stop the bleeding and plug the loopholes, and they're basically taking a position of saying it's not a loophole. It's a misapplication of the law, and there needs to be a solution that allows those communities that entered into stipulated settlements because they couldn't afford to go to the tribunal to reopen those cases. That's really the real cure. What we're facing with the big box issue is something different. If the legislation goes forward to quote to block the loophole, that creates a new market for the Lowe's and the Targets and the Walmarts and everybody else, not so much Walmart, but the others that have gone through the tribunal, because their market going forward is now going to be all of their stores that have already been reduced 60%. So it's like a double hit, basically. So that's their new market. So obviously, when they build a new store, let's assume Lowe's was building a second store here or a store in Nagani, let's say, for instance, their marketplace would be our 60% reduced store and the others to establish their taxable value. That's the danger with going forward with plugging the loophole.
Okay.
It does
so-
not cure the issue.
So in this case, we have, and I don't know that
This is very much like Lost Creek. Lost Creek was the same kind of a situation. However, with Lost Creek is a little bit different. There was a quid pro quo basically in exchange for the 4% payment in lieu. Well, it wasn't 4%, but in exchange for their granting of their payment in lieu of taxes, they agreed to construct Schwemmwood Park. That kind of thing. You have some options before you. The assessor is recommending that you not. There is a breakout of what the tax impact to the other taxing units would be. It's not just us, it's all of the other taxing units in the county.
But I think here, maybe I didn't understand this when I was reading it. I didn't understand that somebody else, that this is actually changing Whetstone. Is that the case?
I believe it's changing ownership.
This is a different owner
It's,
coming in to do something different.
Well, it's different. Isn't Craftsman an offshoot of Medallion? So it's the same owner with a different corporation.
So then the only reason to do this is to reduce the taxes, because the letters we received, that we just got at our tables here, the people are thinking they're gonna be kicked out and they have to go to regular housing, or that this will be turned into regular housing. That's
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
That's
Yep,
a little
they
more
are.
drastic than just asking for a reduction in taxes.
That would be up to the owners. That's what I am asking you. The current owner wants to keep Whetstone as is. So-
Yes, please, would you mind?
What we have right now at Whetstone is a MISTA 30%, the Section 8 program. So if the Section 8 program, if the current owners, if they had somebody else to go in with them to buy the property, they would most likely change it into conventional housing. So if they change it to conventional housing, Whetstone would not be a Section 8 program at all.
Right.
It would lose the 30%. Residents would lose paying 30% of their rent, would just go to a conventional flat rate.
So they want to take the property and turn it into a
Yep.
Tourville type,
Exactly.
Correct.
regular apartments for regular
Yes.
people.
And there is no other Section 8 program. Once the Section 8 program
This
is
is
done, it's gone.
not impacting
You
the
can never
city.
get it back.
So your recommendation is to do what? And I don't want to assume.
Right? The owner would like to, he is trying to buy it by himself. This one current owner is trying to buy the development and rehab it and leave it as Section 8 completely. 30% of their gross income would be for rent. It can never change, it can never be added. Nobody with moderate rent like a conventional housing, say with, give me an example, some people pay zero rent. The rent would go to $600 and they would have to pay the $600 instead of the zero because of their income.
If the new people buy it.
That's correct.
Okay. So then if he's just looking, the fellow who's interested in buying it is looking, why is there a difference? Why the tax reduction if everything is, if he's gonna leave it the way it is?
He's gonna rehab Whetstone Village. There's a letter, he said how much he's gonna put into the development to rehab it, so the next, I think it's 35 years, it will last for another 35 years.
Okay, I see. That's totally different than what I was assuming.
Payment in lieu of tax makes it more favorable for the client.
Sure. Okay. Oh, trustee Johnson?
Reading the information that we got before and reading what was presented tonight, I'm getting conflict of what's being said in here. Because what you're saying is that it could be sold, but now the city has, within the city, there's over 24 acres of the total thing. 17 are sitting in the city of Marquette. The remaining 7 are within the township. Now, the city has already got a 4% on it, from what I understand, according to the literature that was presented here and that. And you're talking about the affordable mortgage due to expire in 2019. Now, taking that from what I see here is that if that is the case, they can do whatever they want with it at that point in time, the whole 24 acres in that. So regardless of what we do tonight, they can still do what they want in 2019. So,
No, that's what we're saying. If you approve the PILT, they're gonna keep Whetstone Village as is. They're not gonna change anything except to do rehab on the development. They're not gonna ask you for anything differently. The only thing that would be different is if you didn't approve the PILT, the owner could go to other people and say, I wanna let you buy this property and you can do what you want with it. They'll sell it conventional housing instead. So the owner would lose his Section 8 project.
but you've already got a 4% pelt on the acreage within the city of Marquette.
Right, and I'm going to them to get another approval for the next 35 years. That motion is coming up in the next 3 weeks. They told me in September that would be voted on.
To me, I'd like to see what the city of Marquette is doing at this point in time before we move forward on this. I want to see what they want to do. Because looking at all this and looking at the letters from the residents over there, I'm wondering who's talking to them because they're running scared, really running scared. So I'd like to know what was told to them in that.
That's exactly what we told you tonight, is if the development the PIL was not approved by the city and the township, they could lose their Section 8 housing. It's that simple. There's nothing else I could say to it. It's that simple. The new owners could come in and just say, all right, we're gonna make this like tour bills. We're gonna make it $600, $800 a month, and they would not have any more voucher program in Whetstone Village.
So what you're saying is that if we don't agree and the city doesn't agree, the gentleman cannot continue to run Whetstone the way it is, and he's gonna sell it.
He has the option to go out and sell it to a conventional. And there's another part owner in this. That's who he is negotiating with to try to get this done so we can keep it Section 8. He's trying to keep this other partner from buying it and selling it outright where he can make millions and millions of dollars because he'll go to conventional housing. And Whetstone, if you see, they haven't got a premium payment for the owners in the last 6 years, I think it says in there. The owners haven't collected a dime from Whetstone.
I have one more question. Looking at what we're now generating in tax bills there is almost $28,000 total, with all the way through there. When we get through, it's gonna be less than 1,100 if I can find all the figures right. Where's that additional money going that you're gonna be saving on taxes and that?
Can't answer that, Ernie. I can find out, I can get that answer for you.
Because that's
I suspect it would be going to the same place that Lowe's money went,
yeah.
to the owners.
To the owner, that's my feeling, is that we approve this dollars because it's gonna be saving in taxes. In the long run, it's all gonna go to the owner.
Let me find that answer, because I don't think the owners collect, let me find out that direct answer for you, because there is something about the owners, they don't collect any money on a Section 8 program. I will get that answer for you, Ernie.
Yeah, I'd like to wait until the city has addressed it at this point in time. That's my feeling on that.
And also, if the board would like, I can bring the owners up here. They would be willing to make a trip up here if you would like the next board meeting. They'll be glad to come up. And their attorney.
Well, if the city isn't gonna have it for like 2 or 3 weeks, then,
I gotta find out I talked to them last week and they haven't set on their schedule yet. So as soon as I can find out, they're gonna call me and I have to go to their meeting also.
going back onto the Lost Creek, I was on the board when that all went through, and there was a lot of discussion of going to 4%, and that was not in favor at that point in time, because there's something on state statute that if we don't do nothing, you go to 10%. And does that still fall true here? Because on Lost Creek, if we did nothing, they would end up with a 10% rather than 4%.
The difference in Lost Creek and Whetstone Village. Lost Creek has moderate renters. They pay conventional housing there, where that tax in effect of true, yes. Whetstone is not, it's all 30%. They cannot pay moderate market rents in Whetstone Village. They cannot do it.
Dan, did you have a question?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's coming down to the residents are going to lose in this big thing, and which always bothers me when corporations come back with that kind of an attitude. But I agree with Ernie from the standpoint that if we did approve this tonight and the city doesn't approve it, then you got 24 acres out there that are basically open So, you know, I think it almost needs to be a complete, from both of us, an agreement.
That's why I was trying to get to the township first,
Yep.
get their approval, then I was gonna take that to the city and say, look, township has approved it, you already have it in place, theirs is in place already.
Mhm.
Can you just agree to another 35 years?
Right.
I understand negotiating, yeah.
I guess I'm confused, why, is it because the two properties are so different that they aren't treated the same? That you wouldn't expect,
Lost Creek and Whetstone?
And
Yes, they're
Whetstone, yes.
completely different properties. Lost Creek, there's 3 different categories in Lost Creek. 50% category, a 60% category, and a moderate category. Those people, those incomes pay that much toward their rent. Whetstone is completely different. It's Section 8, 30% of income. So in Lost Creek, people had a rent to pay. So they paid $500, $550, or $600. In Whetstone, we pay people to live there. In some of the units there, we actually pay them to live in those units, which makes it completely different. It's all based on their income. So people with zero income can live there, and we'll pay them a check to pay their utility bills every month.
so do the people at Lost Creek actually pay regular taxes, the ones who are paying regular rent?
No,
They still don't either.
no. And that's when Ernie and the trustees, there was a big argument with Lost Creek, and it's still, I believe it's still going on because of the moderate renters there. Something about that taxation there where they believe that moderate renters should be paying taxes on that property. So that is an issue that Ernie brought up, and we talked to the other woman on the treasury.
Yes.
She calls us, she used to call us all the time and ask us about that. And she said, there's a loophole here somewhere, and how are you getting away with it? And I could never answer that question. Ernie was really persistent about that.
But I would recommend that we put on a future budget after the city of Marquette has addressed this. And that.
Anybody else have any questions?
I'll support that if that's a motion.
I'll motion, yes.
Okay. Any other comments? I'm concerned about all these people constantly. I mean, all these taxes are gonna fall right to us in the middle here. We're gonna end up trying to cover everything. They're all gonna get all of the perks of all the fire department and all the utilities and everything, and all the middle-class people are gonna be paying for this.
Well, you gotta remember though, we are trying to help the people that don't have
They're
it.
different, right, yeah.
They don't have a thing. I mean, the families that we're supporting there, I have 31 bedroom units, and I have a lot of seniors and a lot of mentally disabled and handicapped people that, without this, I don't know where they would go. I mean, some of them, my example was we paid people to live there, and I cannot believe that we're giving them checks every month to live in these apartments, which I think are well maintained. And I think if you talk to the fire department, the sheriffs in Whetstone Village, it is exceptional. I've lived it. I've been in the Whetstone office this is my 30th year now. I've been in that office, and we've taken care of that property. I think the chief and the fire department will say, you very seldom ever go to Whetstone Village, or the sheriffs will say, we very seldom go to Whetstone. It's a well-maintained property, and we take a lot of pride in it. Keep families so they can have their experiences, move on to go someplace else. We try to get them the housing so they can get a job, go to college, get their degrees, especially moms with kids. We're helping them out. We're giving them an opportunity to go to college and, paying $85, $50 for rent. We're giving them the opportunities, and then they're moving on out to the Marquette area or going someplace else for success. That's the only thing I'm gonna tell you is different about Whetstone Village. That 30% has helped a lot of people. I know it's tough for you guys. I'm not saying anything different, but I would say to you, Whetstone is a completely different project. And I hope the city approves it, and we just keep Whetstone moving along to help these people out.
Okay, thank you. Looks
Thank
like
you.
we'll be talking again.
So should I just, when the next city meeting is, I find
Let
out,
us
do I
know.
call you? And then
Yep,
let's see where, okay.
and we can try to put it on the next agenda.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Most likely that will be our first agenda in October.
Oh, goody.
Welcome.
Yeah. What is that, into the fire, into the pot, or whatever? New business B, manager's report.
Very briefly, the preliminary budget, I did send the preliminary budget out to board members in basically the narratives and the worksheets. We will have the complete binders ready for you by the end of this week. I have the draft to review. I got that draft just before this meeting, so I've got the draft to review to make sure everything's in there that we need to have in there, and then we'll be distributing those to you by the end of this week. So you'll have them in ample time to get ready for the 12th. Lions Field Recreation Area, the climbing structure at Kitty Park is finished and open. It is up. We are experiencing some vandalism at Lions Field. We've got people driving through the new grass, four-wheelers driving through the new grass, vehicles driving through the new grass. We have vandalism going on. We found, on a Monday morning, we found a picnic table, if you can believe it, the heavy picnic table from over by the pavilion on top of the fence at the ice rink. So I'm going to be having cameras installed, and whoever we see doing this is going to be billed for everything that we have expended so far in repairing. So you better stop, whoever you are.
I think once you put the cameras or in the process, put up some big signs, everything's under video surveillance everywhere and that.
We've got barricades up. Actually, the last one, our building and grounds folks had put the brand new sprinklers out on the new grass, and somebody ran them over, ran right over the sprinklers. That was a vehicle. So once we identify who that is, we will be having the sheriff visit them with warrants.
That's pretty sad.
It's very sad to expend the amount of money that we've spent to provide that facility and have somebody as ignorant as that taking those actions on it.
I would bet maybe some of the neighbors might know what's going on.
Very
or
possible. So
identify
if
them.
anybody does know or
Tax
can,
dollars.
if anybody does know and can identify who it is, certainly let me know, and we will take immediate action.
Got too many people that spent way too much time working on that, besides the money that's involved. All the volunteer hours, that's not acceptable.
Other than that, I didn't really have anything else to add to my report unless anybody has any questions.
I have one. Is there anything, we kind of talked about this at the planning meeting two meetings ago. Is there anything we can do, and maybe it'd still have to go back to planning, to help Bonanza's business owner, ex-business owner? I was under the impression that it was a zoning thing that was kind of stalling him from selling his property. Do I have the wrong information?
I'm not aware of an issue that we have with zoning or anything. I know the property's been used. It's been leased out for flowers and Christmas trees and things such as that. We are going to be addressing this spring. We're going to be addressing the spring issue on Erickson Street. I know Superintendent Page has worked with them on a valve issue or a meter issue. Was it valve or meter? On a valve issue that's been corrected, but I'm not aware of any issue with the building itself, other than I think it's an exclusive listing with one real estate company. I don't know that, but backed by owner. Now I see there's work being done on the building.
It might have even been the sign. He put up a different sign.
Okay, could have been,
I
but
was under the impression that the zoning, because he closed it,
I'm not aware of it. I don't think it was I don't believe that it was a non-conforming use. That would be the only issue that I would see, and I can check that with the zoning administrator in the morning. If it was a non-conforming use, then it would have to come into compliance with the current zoning ordinance to be sold. But I've not had any indication that that's the case. I'll find out.
I just didn't know if the township could help somehow.
Well, certainly. I mean, we definitely obviously we want the building filled, and we have referred some developers to contact that have been in touch with us that we thought that might be a viable site. We have referred, so I don't know that there's a zoning issue, but I'll find out. Like I said, the only thing could be if it was a non-conforming use, but I don't believe it was.
That's the way I understood it. Maybe
I'll find out and let you know. I will send an email out to board members to answer the question tomorrow morning.
Thank you. Any other questions for the manager? No? Okay. Public comment. We're back to that. Anybody wishing to address the board, please step forward.
Dave Wigan, 350 Brooklyn Road. Just road committee chairman, a comment, a compliment, I guess, to UPEA. the letters they're sending out to the residents. That was one of the big problems we had was the lack of information and confusion, and nobody knew what was going on, and they're taking care of that issue. And we did establish tonight in the road committee meeting a method of forwarding the comments that we received from the residents. The residents were told in the information seminars that we held before the millage was voted on that if they had questions or something, they should approach their road committee and get those questions answered. And those comments, if we can't answer them, will be forwarded to the zoning administrator, who will forward them on to UPAA, and Mark assured us that he would go out and take care of those and get any questions unanswered answered. So it's the communications end of it's working pretty well, and Mark's doing a nice job keeping people informed of what's coming up on their road. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the board? Okay, additional comments from board members. Start with Mr. LaRue.
No, I just want to say what Dave just said about, it's really nice to work with Mark and his UP Engineering. You know, they're doing a good job. They're trying to resolve the issues that we have, and it's a lot different than we had before, so thank you.
Mr. Pompo? No. Secretary?
No.
Mr. Johnson?
Final kind of information again about paying your taxes by the 14th of September, and that otherwise on the 15th, we'll have to add a few more dollars to your bill. So please come in by the 14th and that. We'll be waiting for you.
Ms. Trescott? No. I don't really have anything other than thank you for the vote of confidence. I will really try not to let anybody down. I will work as hard as I can. If I can do anything, please, you've all got my number somewhere. Please let me know how I can help, or how this board can help. Manager Gerard will be talking.
We will.
Do I hear another motion? Clerk Rattari.
I move to go into closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268E to consult with attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with specific pending litigation, but only if an open meeting would have detrimental financial effect on litigating or settlement position of the public body. That's a motion.
We have a motion and second. Roll call.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Trescott.
Yes.
Trustee Pompo. Yes. Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson.
Yes.
And Trustee Durant.
Yes. We are
We're in closed session at 8:15 p.m.